Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk One Piece, chapter 905. All things considered, wow, I started the day and I thought this was going to be done earlier. It was going to go up just a few hours after Hero Academia, but nope. So the day got away from me and I had to do stuff. Wow. Well, no excuse. Let's just get into the chapter 905. It was a largely setup and exposition chapter, kinda. It was just people meeting and getting some introductions. And you know, some of the introductions, they're worth like making a quick mention about, but otherwise, we're just setting up for the world government. One thing that we can say though is that with 905, you know, every chapter we spend without the Straw Hats makes it seem like, yeah, we're actually really not getting the Straw Hats. So I do wonder what Oda's strategy here is going to be. If the Straw Hats don't get involved, I think that this could be a really short chapter, or a really short arc. I think it'd be the equivalent of when Ace and Blackbeard fought. Like the amount of chapters that they spent, like because there's so much more exposition though, and because of expansion just with One Piece, I would give it, we're at chapter 905. I'd say this could be over by chapter, if we want to give it conservative estimate, 912. I'd say by 912, 913 we'd be done. So 8 more chapters, I would expect. Anything under that is good. Conciseness usually works out. Anything over that, it really depends on how much of a problem this becomes. If things spiral out of control, I could see it going to 913. If the Straw Hats get involved, I definitely see it expanding more. But right now, if I was to make the estimate, 913. So I'm going to put that down. That's going to be my bet for the future. Hopefully it doesn't get overturned really quickly here. 912, 913. Anyway, the chapter, how do we want to talk about this? By the end of the chapter, we have a pretty good idea of who's at the world government. I have a funny story about that. But the chapter does take us all over the place. So I'll just start. The most inconsequential part for me really is the spot with the people coming into the red line, or coming into Marijoa. That's the most inconsequential part for me, just because it's just Oda showing off kings and all that. And this is kind of like similar to what Oda did when he was showing off the underworld kings. Like he just shows them in succession, and it's like, well, it doesn't really matter in the long run. I'm pretty sure we also got glimpses of kings before for one of the Reverie update chapters. But what the note for the kings in this one is that they are all very stereotypical, because you have the Tacos kingdom, and then it has cactus on its head. It has Mexican influence, or stereotypical Mexican influence. Then you have Hamburger King, or whatever his name was, and he has stars on him, and he has a not facial structure. He has a hairstyle that's reminiscent of Abraham Lincoln. You have one that I don't really understand the reference to, one of the queens. And so with that one, oh, and then you have Beers, the one from Beers, and it's clearly Russia. When you look at it, you know, people, I wouldn't be surprised. People would go flat out and say that's racist, and it's like, no, it's a stereotype, it's a caricature. All right, Oda wants to make a statement very quickly. He just wants to give us a funny little visual gag. It's not racist, it's just taking advantage of generalized characteristics across nationalities. All right. I do wonder though, did the tacos actually originate in Mexico? I feel like it's one of those, like, actually I shouldn't say Mexico. Did tacos originate in Latin American countries? Because I feel like that's one of those like little things that you go on the internet and you find out that, hey, wait, you know, it's not actually from thingamajig. It's not actually from Mexico. It's not actually from Colombia. It's actually from, I don't know, Latvia. You know, I feel like it's one of those things. I haven't Googled it as of the point, but you know, I'm not really going to Google it. I want to keep this wonder to myself. Anyway, most likely when this gets animated, there's going to be some amount of hoopla. Like someone on the internet is going to find it offensive that we're using general broad strokes characteristics. But it's like, nah, man, it's whatever. Let Oda do his thing. He lives in Japan. This is how he like sees it's not even how he sees the outside world. It's most likely that's how people just generalize other countries in Japan, and like he's just like playing the joke up. It's just I feel this is gonna be funny. If there's anyone that actually, like, let's take this seriously. If there's anyone that actually has a really legit hardcore point against the depictions of these characters in this chapter, I would welcome your discussion. I would like to know, like, you know, what kind of things you're thinking. But from what I've seen from the audience that watches these videos, the majority of you are sensible, and the majority of you accept the silliness that's in One Piece. So I don't really see that kind of discussion popping out unless you're coming at it from an angle that I'm not really thinking of. All things considered, the kings are inconsequential. Like, the only one that really matters among the kings that we are just introduced to, not the people from the Mermaid Kingdom, because like those guys, Fisherman Island guys, they're cool. Like they matter. The only one that matters outside of the random kings though is Stelly. Stelly, Sabo's adoptive brother. Like, throughout the chapter, we also find out that most likely this kid killed the previous king and queen. So like, he's rotten to the core. But I do like what Oda did with the character, because one of the things that he did was, this guy is clearly an idiot. He's clearly the most stupid thing in the world. If there was a backcountry king, you would definitely say it's this kid. But the thing I really enjoyed with what Oda did with this kid is that this kid, Stelly, he is the one that's seen that the Revolutionary Army is there, right? And okay, so this is the funny story. When we were like in page 15 of the manga stream translation, somewhere around there, he was talking about a giant with a harpoon. And let me tell you, it took me 3 read-throughs to like actually understand what he was referring to with that one. Because I was there, I was racking my head like, giant with a harpoon, poked out of a cliff. Okay, maybe that's one of like the Navy guys, but like, a harpoon sounds really familiar. And then it occurred to me after the 3rd read through and like looking through which of the Revolutionary Army was in this chapter. It's like, it's Morley, duh, oh, obvious. And it's not like I've made 2 videos about the guy, but yeah, it's Morley. So by the time the chapters ended, we have Sabo and Karasu, and then we have 2 references to 2 other members, that being Morley, and then they had a note about the wind being so strong. That might be Dragon. It might be, but like, it's weather, so you can't really tell. But then again, Dragon, if he's there, he's just like, he's moving through the wind and that's why there's wind, then well, there you go. Anyway, the joke with Stelly is that he's the most incompetent person there, but he's the one that's actually the most correct. When he says kill the crows, even though the fear is coming from the wrong place, if they killed the crows, that would have been a severe advantage. Like, that would have been a good move. Stelly seeing Morley, that would have been a really good thing to point out to other people. So I like the joke that Oda's playing there. I think it's really funny. That's a way of making the character that's just annoying pleasant. The other thing that I wanted to like just talk about, and this is having to do with the the revolutionary people, is that we have a very quick clip back to Kamabaka Kingdom, and we see Betty, and we see Koala, and we see what I assume is a cow mink. The most interesting thing about this is that Betty's not with the rest of the group, but like, considering all things, like, Betty is better when she has people surrounding her. So she's like a hard support for the army. So thinking about it, if you have, let's say, Dragon and everyone else over at the Red Line, then having Betty defend Kamabaka Kingdom is a pretty good idea, because we already know that the transvestites that inhabit this island are freaking dangerous, alright? They can, like, let's face it, they can compete with Sanji, or at the very least, they can keep Sanji on his toes. Like, they are very scary people in general. These are the people that Sanji had to face off against to get the recipes, right? So, when you look at that, I would consider that Betty boosting their power with her pep rally type power, that would, like, she pretty much turned that island into a very dangerous hive of warriors, right? So makes sense to put her there. I was surprised that Koala wasn't over there, but I'll take it. I'll take it. I think it's reasonable. Like, maybe they don't need that many people to actually deal with the Red Line. And speaking of not needing that many people to deal with the Red Line, on the Red Line we have Fujitora and we have Green Bull. Now, I'm gonna be a bit petty here, but listen, I love the One Piece theory community. Not because I think they're right, but because I really enjoy looking at them when they're wrong. It's one of my favorite pastimes, and I think we should all have good humor about this, because it's funny how we as fans get so into our theories and our predictions, and then when it doesn't happen, you know, Some people take it well, some people don't. But like watching that process, I think, is one of the most unique things about the One Piece theory community. So I'm thinking back to theories that said that Green Bull would be a woman. And man, if Green Bull is still a woman, and you know, despite the characterization that we've gotten for this chapter, you know, you guys get the last laugh. Anyone that thought Green Bull was going to be a woman gets the last laugh. But right now I'm just thinking like, oh, you got it wrong, buddy. You got it wrong. That said, pettiness aside, we get to see Green Bull in this. And okay, I get it. His defining character trait is this thing about not eating for the last 3 years, and also his thing about having a woman around. Okay, so that's his introductory trait. That's how Oda's decided to introduce him to us. So these are probably going to be traits that the character, like his gag, is probably going to be based around these traits. And when you look at him compared to Fujitora, it's interesting because Fujitora didn't really have any like exaggerated trait. Because when you look at, like, especially when you look at the people who were introduced in Dressrosa, among the mostly friendlies, and I consider Fujitora to be a mostly friendly. You know, you have the extremities of Cavendish with his split personality. You have the extremities of Bartolomeo. You have the extremities of Kelly Funk. Characters that get these really extreme characteristics to make them stand out in your mind. And then you had Fujitora, who was really grounded. Which, you know, even with like the idea that his power is gravity, him being a grounded person, okay, I could see what Oda could be going for there if he wanted to play up that kind of characteristic. But with Green Bull being revealed here, I'm still kind of underwhelmed. It's like whatever. Green Bull's not even gonna pick a fight with Fujitora, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, overall, Fujitora and Green Bull as a duo, I think I'm gonna really enjoy them, because Fujitora is the kind of guy that just tells you things straight to your face. And what I really enjoyed was the retort that the Marijoa is not a Marine headquarters, so therefore he could come in there. I found that hilarious. And then just his banter with Green Bull, and Green Bull being able to make such good food, and Green Bull not wanting to pick a fight with him, I really liked it. It felt good. It felt good. It felt like they're like good friends. I do think Green Bull probably like leans on Fujitora's side. What was interesting is that Fujitora is saying like, yeah, Dr. Vegapunk, he's made some pretty cool things. Like, I don't think we're gonna need the Shishibukai system, and that's cool. Give us some more little name drops of Fujitora. Let us know what he's doing. But I do want to see him in the future. This is good enough for now. Now, any other points? We're already like at 13 minutes in the video. Garp was with the royal family. That was really nice. I love that part. I love that Garp doesn't care about anything. It's good to see that he's still active. The thing I really liked with his interactions with the Mermaid Princess, though, is that he's fine with Luffy getting praised, and he's fine with getting referred to as Luffy's grandfather. So that tells us that they must have had nice conversations on the way up. So already Garp and Kobe have had really nice conversations with the people that Luffy has helped. So I like that. That feels good. And it's nice that Garp doesn't feel that ashamed about Luffy at this point. I think Garp understands the whole thing about freedom. And at the end of the day, like, Garp, I do think to some degree he has the moral high ground when it comes to the whole issue of Marines versus pirates. Like, really, if all pirates were like Luffy, the world would be a nicer place, but they're not, right? The issue isn't that Luffy's a pirate. The issue is that pirates in general are seen to be very dangerous forces in the world. That's why you need people to stop them. And wherever you have an organization, like, evil can always creep into it. Evil can always like just sprout within the noblest of intents. All it takes is just some amount of power. You get the right amount of power and the weak enough person, and you're gonna have corruption occurring, right? So I like that Garp still stands as a good example of a Marine. I like that him and Sengoku are still things for the Marines in general. Anyway, moving on. The last thing I really want to mention is Man, there was one more point. Oh yeah. We had Captain Morgan's here, or like, you know, Big News Morgan there, and what I found most funny, he was mentioning how Goa Kingdom is just the breeding ground for notorious criminals, and I'm like, what? Oh yeah, I guess. I mean, like, that place was a shithole, right? So like, I guess tons of criminals are coming out of there. But then he name dropped Luffy, Sabo, and Ace, and I'm like, oh, right. They're technically criminals. Actually, no, they're fully criminals, because Luffy has no problems with stealing. Right. Yeah, no, it was just funny. It was funny. That was like a moment I realized, oh, I don't see Luffy as a criminal. I was gonna make fun of everyone else in that stupid island, and then, yeah, no. I like that observation. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Those are I think the main points I wanted to point out. But let me know if there's anything else that you enjoyed in this chapter, and let's call it there. Till next time. I hope you have a great day.